Chapter 24:17. Little girl. You know the person in the portrait? Looking at Yi Qing Luo's expression, Elder T's heart suddenly jumped and he asked nervously. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Thinking about what Miao Yi had said about Grandma Qi's grandson, she was silent for a while, then nodded. When I first arrived in Joyful Heart City, Grandma Bu helped me a little, so we can be considered acquaintances. Elder T's eyes widened. His turbid old eyes were gradually covered by a layer of mist. Tears, along his wrinkled face, slid down bit by bit. He grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm agitatedly. You saw the old woman. You saw her, didn't you? The old woman, she's still alive, still alive. Her voice was choked with sobs as she said, You saw the old woman. You saw her, didn't you? Looking at Elder T's tearful face, Yi Qing Luo's heart softened a little. No matter what the reason was, Grandma Bu didn't return to the Bu family village. He didn't see Elder T again. For old-time T. None of this was important. The important thing was Granny Bu was still alive. His wife was still alive. This was the best answer she could give him. After everything is settled, follow us to Qinghua City to meet Grandma Bu. Yi Qing Luo held Elder T's hand tightly and patted it lightly. She must want to see you very much. Elder T choked with sobs and couldn't speak. He wiped the tears off his face and nodded. Yi Qing Luo and Elder T had no one in their eyes as they chatted idly. The surrounding Miao tribesmen felt as if they had been disgraced. Especially Third Elder Miao. His face was as black as charcoal. You bunch of old and weak trash. How dare you be so bold? Third Elder Miao gritted his teeth and roared, Little girl, do you want to meddle in other people's business? Today, this elder will make an example of you first. As the third elder of the Miao tribe, in front of the Miao tribesmen, he was repeatedly frightened by a young girl who looked no more than 14 or 15 years old, and he did not even dare to resist. If the news spread to the Miao stockade village, what face would he have left to face the Miao tribesmen? It was very likely that his position as the third elder would not be stable. He had to get back at them. He had to teach this bitch a lesson. Third Elder Miao's eyes revealed a vicious glint as the attack in his hands had already turned into a biting cold murderous intent, pouncing towards Yi Qing Luo. A terrifying aura. In an instant it spread throughout the entire Bu family village. Grandpa, take the villagers and hide well. With me around, no one will be in danger. Yi Qing Luo pushed Elder T towards Gu Jingyu's direction. Then, he leaped up and flew towards the profound energy released by Third Elder Miao. Third Elder Miao's attack. She could not avoid him. Once she avoids it, Third Elder Miao's attack would fall on the innocent villagers behind her. And these villagers were just ordinary people. The aftershock of Third Elder Miao's attack would also injure the villagers. The only thing she could do, it was to force Third Elder Miao's attack back. Furthermore, suppress Third Elder Miao. Gu Jingyu supported Elder T. He frowned slightly and raised his head to look at the girl who was leaving a trail of sunset in the sky. His heart was beating faster and faster. Why, he was clearly beside her. But she wasn't willing to rely on him? Why must she choose to risk her life to save the Bu family village's villagers? She obviously knew. He would rush over to the Bu family village to save the villagers. But she didn't say anything to him. This kind of woman. Chapter 24:18. Third Elder Miao and Yi Qing Luo exchanged over 10 moves. Third Elder Miao realized the disparity between his and Yi Qing Luo's abilities. His expression became even more solemn. He was overwhelmed with shock. He couldn't believe that this young lady who looked so weak that she could be easily strangled actually possessed such powerful strength. Even he wasn't her match. Since when was there such an incredible young lady in the North Continent? But moments later, Third Elder Miao was covered in injuries as he was flung out in an extremely pathetic state. Third Elder Miao finally stabilized his footing. His entire body was covered in injuries as it affected his muscles. It was so painful that he grimaced in pain. He couldn't help but curse at this wretched hussy's insidiousness. Yiqing Luo's injuries on Third Elder Miao didn't even use her profound energy to hurt his internal organs. But she kept on giving Third Elder Miao one injury after another. Moreover, the injuries on every part of his body were all places that could easily be affected, and the pain would be extreme. At this moment, Third Elder Miao was in an extremely sorry state. "You bunch of good-for-nothings! Hurry up and help me!" Third Elder Miao bellowed angrily at the surrounding Miao people. Those 40 to 50 Miao people were probably shocked by Yiqing Luo's ferocious battle power. But no one stepped forward. Third Elder Miao was so angry that he stomped his feet. But no matter how he scolded or howled, those Miao people stood on the spot as they stared at him with wide eyes. No matter how badly he was tortured by Yiqing Luo, he was in an extremely pathetic state. Whereas on the other side, under Gu Jingyu's protection, Elder T had gathered all the Bu family villagers at a corner of the tea house. Elder T hugged the things in his arms tightly as he looked at Yiqing Luo worriedly. "Young master, you go help your wife, we'll be fine." Gu Jingyu placed one hand behind his back as he looked at Yiqing Luo's direction with a complicated gaze. He looked at the villagers who were hiding behind him as they trembled in fear but were worried about the situation anxiously. Eventually he shook his head. "She can handle it alone, I'll protect you. If she leaves you, the Miao people might take the opportunity to kidnap you to threaten her." When the villagers heard that, they couldn't persuade further. Indeed, if there was no one to protect them, they would be easily captured by the Miao people. By then, it would implicate that young lady instead. Soon, the battle ended. Third Elder Miao lay on the ground in a sorry state, his body covered in blood. He no longer had the strength to move. His body was still twitching and trembling. Yiqing Luo casually swung the long whip in her hand. The whip cut through the air, making a hua-hua sound. It was also mixed with a wave of air that kept rolling. Third Elder Miao trembled even more violently when he saw this. He cowered in fear. Where was the slightest bit of his usual high-spirited demeanor? Just earlier, he was whipped by Yiqing Luo till his entire body was covered with injuries. Moreover, the sharp pain on his body did not numb him at all. Instead, it became more and more painful. He screamed in pain. Even if he wanted to faint, he couldn't. A shadow had already formed in his heart. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly, as her long and narrow eyes outlined an extremely shallow arc. She bent down and looked down at the man who was trembling with fear. "What? Aren't you going to teach me a lesson?" Why was he curled up on the ground? "How are you going to lecture me like this?" His words caused Third Elder Miao's face to turn red with shame. But Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see his shame. Chapter 24:19. "You! How dare you!" The more Yiqing Luo said she didn't want his life, the more afraid Third Elder Miao was. His eyes widened and his hoarse voice was filled with hatred and murderous intent. "You dare to kill me! I'm an elder of Miao Miao! I'm an elder of Miao Miao Miao!" Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she smiled fearlessly. "Very soon you won't be." Perhaps this sentence had infuriated Third Elder Miao. His body, which was sprawled on the ground, started to twist violently. "Slut! This elder wants you dead. Want you!" He was roaring. His voice was almost hoarse. Just at this moment, Yiqing Luo saw clearly that Third Elder Miao's pupils suddenly widened. Numerous black things started to spread out from Third Elder Miao's right eye. The white of his eye slowly turned black. It blended together with the color of his pupils. Third Elder Miao's right eye was pitch black, like a bottomless black hole. It was extremely horrifying. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly as she stared at Third Elder Miao's right eye. She wasn't sure what was going on with Third Elder Miao's eye. Behind her, Gu Jingyu's panicked voice was heard. "Miss Yi, be careful. The next moment, her wrist was tightened. Her body was suddenly pulled by someone. Her face crashed into a solid chest. Gu Jingyu, what are you doing? The unfamiliar man's presence wrapped around her body. Yiqing Luo couldn't tolerate any man other than Ah Xian touching her. She felt a wave of disgust and discomfort. She struggled. Gu Jingyu hugged her even tighter. Bam! The man's suppressed groan was heard beside her ear. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she pushed Gu Jingyu away and looked up at him. Gu Jingyu's face was pale as a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of his lips. He met Yiqing Luo's gaze. He immediately raised his hand and wiped the trace of blood from the corner of his lips as he took a deep breath and stabilized himself. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo grabbed Gu Jingyu's arm. The cold touch made her frown even tighter. Nothing. Gu Jingyu's lips twitched as he shook his head indifferently. You don't need to bother about me, I'll leave these people to you. Yiqing Luo didn't let go of his wrist. Tell me the truth. Gu Jingyu pursed his thin lips, turned his head, and did not speak. Clearly, he wasn't going to tell the truth. Ha! Ha ha! What a lovely couple! Third Elder Miao panted heavily, but he could not stop laughing. Yiqing Luo pulled Gu Jingyu away and looked at Third Elder Miao. Third Elder Miao's eyes had already returned to normal. She frowned as she recalled Third Elder Miao's black eyes. She then recalled the scene of Gu Jingyu hugging her tightly, his back facing Third Elder Miao, and the scene of him getting injured. Could it be your little lover has been poisoned by my special Gu poison? As long as I'm injured, he'll be injured too. Ha 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 ha. Third Elder Miao clutched his chest and laughed. Little girl, didn't you want to kill me? Kill me, and this little lover of yours will die with me. Sure enough, it was Gu poison. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk as she glanced sideways at Gu Jingyu. As expected, as Third Elder Miao laughed heartily, Gu Jingyu's face grew paler. He couldn't even stand stably. Yiqing Luo hurriedly stretched out her hand to support him as she turned her head to look at Third Elder Miao. Remove the Gu immediately. Chapter 24:20. Yiqing Luo's fingers clenched as an eerie glint appeared in her eyes. Are you threatening me? Third Elder Miao could tell that Yiqing Luo cared a lot about her little lover. He had a way to control Yiqing Luo. Third Elder Miao naturally had nothing to fear. Yes, this elder is threatening you. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly when she heard that. Her long and narrow eyes outlined a curved arc. It looked extremely demonic and extremely alluring. But her eyes were sparkling with a faint glow. But it was filled with chilliness. It was like the cold wind in December, gathering at the bottom of her eyes. Such an oppressive pressure, even Third Elder Miao's heart couldn't help but tremble. He suppressed the surging fear in his heart, forcing himself to look as though he was in control of the entire situation, forcing himself not to lower Yiqing Luo's imposing manner. Young lady, if you still want your little lover to live, then obediently kneel on the ground and admit your mistake. Then, kill these old fellows in the Bu family village in front of me. Third Elder Miao raised his head complacently as he arrogantly gave out his orders. His gaze towards Yiqing Luo became colder and colder. Third Elder Miao only felt carefree. He became even more complacent. Young lady, don't you like to meddle in other people's business? Now I will let you meddle in this matter. How about it? Young lady, what will you choose? Will you save your beloved little lover, or save these old fellows who have nothing to do with you? Third Elder Miao's gaze swept past those 50 old villagers who were gathered at the corner of the tea stall. The villagers were frightened by his gaze, and heard the contents of his words. Their faces were filled with shock and terror. These Miao people were simply too cruel. They actually thought of such a method to torture people's hearts. They were not human at all. The villagers were filled with anger. But no one dared to really vent out their anger. The courage to work together and counterattack in a rampage. They had long been exhausted. At this moment, Elder T hugged the thing in his arms tightly as his steps trembled as he walked out. young lady, you just promise him to kill us and let him cure your husband's poison. Elder T. The villagers behind him were stunned and hurriedly called out to Elder T. Elder T slowly turned around. Facing the villagers, there were still traces of tears on his face. His tear-stained eyes swept across the villagers who had accompanied him for most of his life. Choking with sobs, he said, "This couple was just an innocent passerby. It was our carelessness that got them involved. All this while, we have been enduring the Meow people's plunder and brutal killings. Time and time again, he had to endure and suffer again and again. But it did not change the Meow people's conscience. Instead, it encouraged the Meow people's brutality and cruelty. All of this is our fault. It had nothing to do with anyone else. Now, this pair of innocent passers-by, because they helped us, caused them to be poisoned by the Meow tribe. How can we sit back and do nothing? How can we watch innocent passers-by be tortured by the goo poison because of our lives? The Meow people had no heart. Don't tell me we don't have any? If this young man really died because of the goo poison, even if we survived, can we really escape from the blame of our conscience?" One question after another silenced the villagers. They could not refute. Chapter 24-21. This place is our Boo family's turf. This place belongs to all of us. This place cannot allow anyone to trample, to invade. Elder T's voice, towards the end, was filled with solemnity and determination. He said these words with the heart of meeting his death. Elder T's words landed. He hugged it tightly in his arms, as though it was a treasure. Following that, his vision, bit by bit, swept past all the villagers. "This is my personal decision, so even if you don't want to accept, I will not force you. But no need to persuade me, I have already decided." Saying that, Elder T turned around, facing Yi-Ching Luo. "Young lady, after I die, pass these things to my old woman." Saying that, Elder T passed the things in his hands to Yi-Ching Luo. Yi-Ching Luo stared at Elder T's hand, not moving for a long time. Elder T gave her a benevolent smile. "Young lady, it's all right. Do it, I won't blame you, just treat it as giving me a release." Yi-Ching Luo squinted her eyes slightly. Not saying a word, not moving. The atmosphere froze in an instant. When Third Elder Meow saw this, he finally felt like he was in control of his own life. He laughed complacently and arrogantly, "Ha ha ha. Young lady, look, the Boo family village's villagers are so understanding, they all want to sacrifice themselves, to fulfill you two lovers. Why aren't you quickly taking action, fulfill the villagers' sacrifice for you?" Third Elder Meow laughed loudly, as he looked at those 50 over Meow people, who were still standing on the same spot, not moving at all. "Now the initiative is already in my hands, what are you all still in a daze for? Quick, go over and help that young lady, after all she's just a young lass who hasn't even grown her hair, you all have to help her kill people by the side." Although his words sounded as though he wanted someone to help Yi-Ching Luo, in actual fact, he was forcing Yi-Ching Luo to choose. Forcing Yi-Ching Luo to kill those villagers. However, after Third Elder Meow finished his words, those Meow people still didn't move. They all looked at Third Elder Meow, as though he was a wax statue. Third Elder Meow pointed at the Meow people angrily. "Good. Now this elder can't order you around. Good, very good." He vented his anger onto Yi-Ching Luo. "Young lady, this elder doesn't have the patience to waste words with you. This elder will give you the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn to think about it. If you still haven't made a choice after the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, then this elder will make the choice for you." Hearing this, Elder T became even more anxious. "Little girl, just do it. Our Boo family village has implicated you and your husband." Elder T once again raised the thing in his hand towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. "I've lived for most of my life, my only obsession is to wait for my son, to wait for my old woman to come back. Now that I know that my old woman is still alive, I no longer have any obsession. You don't have to worry about me." At this time, a few villagers walked up to her and said, "Little girl, Elder T is right. We are already people with half of our bodies in the yellow soil. We will die no matter when we die. This is the territory of our Boo family village. How can we implicate innocent people and sacrifice ourselves for our own lives? Isn't it just death? We're not afraid. Little girl, dying in your hands is better than letting those Meow family village dogs continue to bully us." Chapter 24-22. The villagers were all talking at once. In the end, all the villagers chose to die without any hesitation. They were not willing to implicate the innocent. Looking at these old people in front of her, each and every one of their faces were unafraid of death. Yiqing Luo's heart softened slightly. There were many bad people in this world. But at the same time there were kind people. The villagers in this Boo family village were all very gentle people. They could sacrifice themselves for others. This was a kind of noble sentiment. Yiqing Luo's gaze slowly turned gentle. Cough. Cough cough. A cough rang out, breaking the clamorous argument at this moment. Everyone's gaze turned over. Gu Jingyu sat on the stone bench, one hand placed on the stone table, while the other pressed against his chest. His pale complexion looked extremely weak. Coughing sounds could be heard. The more he coughed, the whiter his face became. That seemingly slender body looked as if it would collapse at any time. "You all, listen to me." Gu Jingyu moved his lips as his voice was hoarse. The villagers immediately stopped their clamoring, waiting for Gu Jingyu to speak. Gu Jingyu moved his body. He supported himself on the stone table as he tried to stand up. But his entire body was weak, unable to exert any strength. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she slowly walked up, supporting Gu Jingyu with one hand. Gu Jingyu's gentle eyes flashed past a glint of joy. He lowered his voice as he thanked her. Then with Yiqing Luo's support, he stood up. A pair of gentle like water, but filled with an irresistible imposing manner, looked at those villagers, as he spoke in a serious and sincere manner. "Miss Yi and I appreciate your kind intentions. But your request, we can't do it. Little master, we've already decided. We've thought it through. You don't need to have any psychological pressure." The villagers immediately opened their mouth. Elder T nodded. "Little master, this is the best choice for you and for us." Gu Jingyu slowly shook his head. "If I die under the Gu poison, your conscience will not be at ease. But if the entire village, because of me, die under Miss Ye's hands, how can I be at ease?" He looked at those villagers. "Thank you for thinking for us, but we can't be that selfish." "Young master," Elder T said anxiously, "you still have a bright future ahead of you. We are just a bunch of old guys. Half of our bodies are under the ground. Even if we live, it is meaningless." Gu Jingyu's gaze was firm. "Everyone lives in this world for a unique reason. No one lives without meaning. I can't let you die for my own life." Saying that, Gu Jingyu looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Miss Yi, you cannot kill these villagers." "Young master!" The villagers shouted out one after another. Third Elder Meow couldn't help but laugh when he saw how they were trying to shirk the responsibility. "How touching! Ha ha! Little girl, the final decision is in your hands. This elder is very curious. How will you choose? Ha ha!" Everyone's vision was placed on Yiqing Luo. The villagers lowered their voices as they pleaded in a low voice, allowing Yiqing Luo to make a decision. Gu Jingyu shook his head at Yiqing Luo, determined not to let everyone die together because of his own poison. The scene was once again in an uproar. Chapter 24-23. When did I say that I want to kill these villagers? Yiqing Luo's clear voice was mixed with a hint of coldness. Her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as she glanced at Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu's expression stiffened slightly, as though he felt uncomfortable because of Yiqing Luo's words, and he pressed on his heart as he coughed hard. That pair of gentle eyes flashed past a trace of inexplicable grief. His heart felt as though there was a needle poking at it non-stop. Gu Jingyu gave a bitter smile as his lips twitched. Indeed, he had no place in her heart at all. When Yi Luo didn't deny it, the villagers misunderstood that they were husband and wife. He thought that he was infallible. She had a special place in Yi Luo's heart, a special existence. But in the end, he couldn't even be compared to these villagers. Looking at Gu Jingyu's inexplicable feeling, the surrounding atmosphere became desolate. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She didn't quite understand the change in Gu Jingyu's thoughts. She couldn't figure it out. She simply couldn't be bothered to think further. Instead she looked at those villagers. Don't say any more, I won't kill you for the so-called cure. Elder T frowned. Young lady, other than the Miao people, no one else in the world can cure the Miao people. We, this group of old fellows, appreciate your kind intentions. Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose slightly as she slowly walked towards Elder T. She raised her fair wrist and gently pressed the parcel that Elder T passed to her, pressing it back into Elder T's arms. This carries your feelings, carries your longing, you need to pass it to Grandma Bu personally. Elder T was stunned. But young lady, don't tell me, do you really want your own husband to die from the poison? Yiqing Luo looked at Gu Jingyu indifferently. He and I are just ordinary friends, he is not my husband. Elder T's mouth opened wider and wider. This time, Elder T didn't treat Yiqing Luo's explanation as Yiqing Luo being shy. But even if he is not your husband then? Some villagers opened their mouth apprehensively. Even if he was not this young lady's husband. But they let this young master be tortured to death by the Gu poison just like that. They were the same, they couldn't accept it. Hearing Yiqing Luo's denial, Gu Jingyu's heart fell to the bottom. His entire body felt cold, as if he was in an icehouse. The Gu poison in his body kept moving about in his internal organs. He is in pain. But it couldn't compare to the pain in his heart. Could it be, had he really fallen in love with this girl whom he had only met twice? Moreover, he had given his heart? Otherwise, why would he do that just because of a single sentence from this young girl? His heart ached to such an extent? There's no need for you to say anything more. If I wanted you to die, I wouldn't have saved you earlier. Since I've chosen to save you, I'll protect you till the end. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and calmly suppressed the villagers' uneasy words. Then, she looked at the man who had lost all support and was sitting powerlessly on the stone bench. As for young Master Gu, although he and I are just ordinary friends, he was poisoned to save me after all. Logically speaking, I can't just watch him die. Yiqing Luo's voice was calm and indifferent. It floated into Gu Jingyu's ears. It made Gu Jingyu's heart jump for no reason. Chapter 24-24. The third elder of Miao clan had heard their conversation. He looked at Yiqing Luo in disdain as he ridiculed. Young lady, do you think that just because you can defeat me, you will be able to cure my Gu poison? Thinking of protecting both sides? Do you really think there's such a beautiful thing in this world? I don't know if there's such a beautiful thing, but I know. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked straight into Third Elder Miao's eyes. No matter in which aspect, you're defeated by me. Her voice paused as she sneered. Defeated by me, you're just a clown. Third Elder Miao's face sunk as the anger in his chest continued to burn. Good. You still want to be stubborn with me? I'll let you experience the power of the Miao family's Gu worms. Third Elder Miao raised his palm. He took out a dagger and forcefully cut his palm. Fresh blood dripped down from his palm. He gave a sinister smile as he opened his palm. He started to recite the Miao tribe's incantation. As he recited, as he looked at Yiqing Luo's expression, he wanted to see Yiqing Luo panicking and begging for mercy. But Yiqing Luo's expression was as calm and indifferent as usual. Her gaze was extremely cold. There wasn't a trace of panic or fear. Instead, it was filled with a chilling cold glint and determination. Third Elder Miao's gaze and Yi Qing Luo's eyes met for an instant. Yi Qing Luo suddenly revealed an extremely light and enchanting smile. Third Elder Miao, you can threaten me because of the goo poison in Master Gu's body. If you want to use the goo poison to hurt Master Gu, then I will disregard everything and make a move against you. Third Elder Miao's mouth, which was reciting the incantation, suddenly paused. You dare. You can try if I dare. Yi Qing Luo retorted with ridicule. As long as you activate the goo worm in his body, I have no worries. Anyway, as compared to Master Gu, you don't want to die. Third Elder Miao's face turned steely green as he stared at Yi Qing Luo, as though he couldn't wait to tear her into pieces. However, he still cherished his life and stopped the incantation in his mouth. Gu Jingyu, who was sitting by the side, looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. Yi Qing Luo's earlier words kept repeating in her mind. She was clearly just a young girl. Yet, he possessed such boldness. Although what she had said to him sounded so cold, Lin Mingya still felt that it was a pity. But from her words it was clear that she cared about him. However, if it was anyone else who said these words, they would have been shocked. It was very possible that such an effect could not be achieved. He was also unable to suppress Third Elder Miao's aura. It was obviously Third Elder Miao who had something which could threaten Yi Qing Luo. However, Third Elder Miao did not dare to act rashly. She was the only one who could be so domineering and overbearing. Furthermore, he had hit the nail on the head and pointed out Third Elder Miao's fear of death. It was clearly a disadvantage. Yet, he relied on his own aura. He had forcefully reversed the situation. Gu Jingyu's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo became increasingly gentle, increasingly filled with some kind of feelings. Third Elder Miao, as for me, I have no intention to become enemies with the Miao tribe, but, since I've bumped into this matter today, then I have no choice but to care about it. Moreover, doesn't Third Elder Miao like to implicate innocent people? Chapter 24-25. Third Elder Miao's face was ashen. If only he had known that this young girl was so powerful. No matter what, he would never drag this young girl into it. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's smiling face, Third Elder Miao felt like spitting out a mouthful of blood in his heart. What exactly do you want? Third Elder Miao asked while gnashing his teeth. As soon as the words left his mouth, Third Elder Miao shut his mouth in annoyance. He couldn't help but slap his own mouth. Right now, he was clearly in control. It was him who could make use of the venomous worm to threaten Yi Qing Luo into not daring to make a move on him. It should be Yi Qing Luo who was afraid. But after he asked this question, he forcefully lowered his aura by a notch. It had evolved into him, begging Yi Qing Luo to give him a quick death. Handing the initiative over to Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted slightly as she curled her lips sweetly and spoke in a calm voice. After all, you're also a member of the Miao tribe. As for me, naturally I can't kill you. Hearing this, Third Elder Miao's expression froze and his eyes brightened. That's right. I am an elder of the Miao tribe. I represent the entire Miao tribe. If you dare to touch me, you must shut up. Yi Qing Luo indifferently glanced at Third Elder Miao. His voice was cold and emotionless. Third Elder Miao's throat tightened, and he couldn't make a sound. Yi Qing Luo slowly took a few steps forward. Third Elder Miao's body went limp and he staggered backward, as though he was frightened by Yi Qing Luo. His entire face was deathly pale. You cured young Master Gu's goo poison and made the fiercest oath of the Miao tribe. You promised never to cause trouble for the Bu family village again. Yi Qing Luo stated her request word by word. Her eyes were calm and her expression was indifferent. It was as if he was talking about something extremely ordinary. Why should I believe you? Third Elder Miao straightened his neck and glared at him. The only thing he could rely on now was the poison in Gu Jingyu's body. If he cured the Gu, Yiqing Luo had no more misgivings as she struck out at him. Yiqing Luo tilted her head, her long eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. Because you have no choice. What do you mean? Third Elder Miao's face turned even paler, and he took a few more steps back. As though Yiqing Luo was a dreadful beast. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she suddenly opened her palm towards Third Elder Miao. Third Elder Miao thought that Yiqing Luo was going to attack him. He immediately let out a loud cry. He dodged towards the Miao tribesmen who were standing still at the side. But Yiqing Luo instructed him to simply open his palm. It was very simple and very casual as he waved it at Third Elder Miao. It was a simple gesture. Instead, it seemed like he was mocking Third Elder Miao for making a fuss over nothing. Third Elder Miao felt that he had been played. She was angry and embarrassed. Just as he was about to help a Miao man to stand up. Suddenly, his palm came into contact with something sharp. A bloody gash immediately appeared on his palm. Fresh blood flowed down his palm. Third Elder Miao retracted his hand in pain as he looked at the wound on his palm. It wasn't considered deep, but it was definitely not a shallow wound. He immediately looked towards the place where his palm had touched earlier in puzzlement. From this angle, through the bright light in the surroundings, Third Elder Miao saw it clearly. Beside that Miao man, there was an extremely thin ray of light. Chapter 24-26. What was that? Third Elder Miao's face turned pale as he trembled as he stretched out his hand, probing it. He then discovered that was a strand of extremely fine silver thread. Each strand of silver thread was as sharp as a blade. Under the illumination of the light, it reflected sparks, which made one dumbstruck. Third Elder Miao looked at that strand of silver thread in disbelief. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He abruptly turned his head back, looking behind him at those Miao tribesmen who were unable to move. As expected, he could clearly see that every single Miao tribesman's body was wrapped with strand of silver thread. If one didn't look carefully, there was no way to tell. This was the reason why the Miao tribesmen were unable to move for so long? It wasn't that they didn't listen to him, but their limbs were bound, their bodies were bound. They had no way to move at all. When on Earth, Third Elder Miao only felt his heart pounding in fear. His eyes were filled with shock as he slowly turned his head, looking at Yiqing Luo. His entire body was stiff, totally unable to twist. This young lady, when on Earth, under the circumstances that he didn't know, using these silver threads to bind the Miao tribesmen, making them unable to resist? From the start till the end, he actually didn't have any sense. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly, as she looked at Third Elder Miao with a light smile. Her 5 fingers casually waved towards his opened palm. Third Elder Miao saw it clearly. That bursts of silver cold glint scurried in front of his eyes. Those silver threads were all controlled by Yiqing Luo, using her hands to control those strands of silver threads. This time, he was completely sure. It was this young lady, under the circumstances where he didn't sense it at all, restraining his 50 over Miao tribesmen. Third Elder Miao only felt cold sweat dripping down as his entire body turned soft, almost unable to stand. Third Elder Miao, you're an intelligent person, so you should be clear that the current you has no conditions and qualifications to negotiate with me. Yiqing Luo shook her fingers. Those 50 over people who were restrained by the silver threads uncontrollably moved their hands. One after another, they stretched out their hands towards Third Elder Miao. Third Elder Miao angrily stamped his feet as he berated, "You dare to touch me? All of you stop. All of you stop for this elder." However, the Miao people had no way to control their own consciousness, no matter how much Third Elder Miao roared in anger. These people's hands uncontrollably reached for Third Elder Miao's neck. "I will cure him of the goo. I'll cure him. Third Elder Meow was scared out of his wits. He held his head in a sorry state and sat down on the ground, shouting loudly. Those pairs of hands were about to reach his neck. He stopped. Soon after, the pairs of hands slowly moved away. A path was revealed. Third Elder Meow is indeed an intelligent person. Yi-Ching Luo alluringly curled her lips as she gave a calm and indifferent smile. Her charming eyes were filled with indifference and coldness. Then, let's get started. As soon as she finished speaking, all of a sudden, a black pill popped out from his fingertip. The medicine's words fell into Third Elder Meow's lip. It melted into Third Elder Meow's mouth. Third Elder Meow coughed loudly a few times and immediately raised his hand to dig his throat. But after retching a few times, he couldn't spit anything out. What did you feed me? Third Elder Meow clutched his neck as he stared sinisterly at Yi-Ching Luo. Chapter 24-27. Damn it. Now the person who lost more than he gained was him, his Meow tribe. He didn't know where Yi-Ching Luo got her face to say such words. Third Elder Meow clenched his teeth in anger. The expression on his face contorted into a sinister expression. It looked extremely terrifying. TSK. Third Elder Meow, could it be that? You don't believe that I've poisoned you? Yi-Ching Luo's little face was filled with doubt as she blinked her eyes. Third Elder Meow clenched his fists and did not reply. Yi-Ching Luo clicked her tongue as she continued on her own. But, Third Elder Meow, it's better for you to choose to believe me. After all, in front of you, there's already Little Marquis and your Meow tribe's eldest young miss. As a warning, when Yi-Ching Luo mentioned Little Duke and eldest young Miss Meow, Third Elder Meow's face instantly turned pale as he raised his head in disbelief, staring at Yi-Ching Luo without blinking. You are. The news of Yi-Ching Luo being hunted down by the entire continent by the Battle King's manor had already caused an uproar in the Northern Waves continent. The Meow people were naturally aware of this matter. Meow Rongrong, the eldest daughter of the Meow tribe, was the one who cured Yuan Kuang's poison. The Meow tribe's people naturally knew the reason why the Battle King manor was searching for Yi-Ching Luo in the entire continent. Not long ago, Lady Meow returned to the Meow Stockade village in a sorry state. Who knew what they discussed with the Meow tribe's leader? Young Miss Meow announced that she was going into seclusion and refused anyone's visit. The day of the Saintess selection was just around the corner. Young Miss Meow was determined to obtain the position of Holy Maiden. How could Miss Meow choose to go into seclusion at this critical juncture? Third Elder Meow had more or less heard about it. It was said that young Mistress Meow had been poisoned. He was poisoned at the War King's mansion. He thought of how the young prince had been poisoned. Third Elder Meow's body suddenly stiffened. Cold sweat dripped down uncontrollably from his entire body. Yi-Ching Luo looked at Third Elder Meow's expression and knew that he understood her words. Then, she rubbed her chin and clicked her tongue. Third Elder Meow, I've never been a patient person. Me. Release. Third Elder Meow's face was deathly pale, and he spat out each word in a flustered and exasperated manner. No matter what, he would never believe it. This young girl, is she really only 13 or 14 years old in front of me? Such an oppressive pressure. Such a fierce method. This was a threat that he couldn't resist, and couldn't resist at all. Little by little, Third Elder Meow couldn't believe it from the bottom of his heart. But that was the truth. The truth was indeed, he had no choice. He wanted to live. Compared to young Master Gu, he wanted to live more. He could only choose to take a gamble and believe in Yi-Ching Luo. He could only believe in Yi-Ching Luo. He watched as Third Elder Meow walked towards Gu Jingyu with a dark expression. Yi-Ching Luo's lips curled into a cold arc of ridicule. It was this kind of mental fortitude. He could even become an elder of the Meow tribe. Was she overestimating the Meow tribe? Third Elder Meow was very clear in his heart. The Gu poison in Gu Jingyu's body would bind him and Gu Jingyu together. Once he was hurt in any way, Gu Jingyu would suffer the same amount of damage. How could she really let the Miao tribesman strangle his neck? However, Third Elder Miao cherished his life. When he met with matters related to his life, he had completely lost all his rationality. This was a battle in his heart. Whose inner heart wasn't strong? Who would be toyed with in the palm of his hand? Chapter 24-28. She had grasped Third Elder Miao's weakness, and also grasped Third Elder Miao's weakness. Yiqing Luo wasn't worried that Third Elder Miao would play any trick. After all, those 2 lessons learned from the mistakes of the past had already cast a psychological shadow on Third Elder Miao. Moreover, Gu Jingyu was the young matriarch of the Gu Feng sect. Naturally, he wasn't a stupid person. If Third Elder Miao really had a disloyal heart, Gu Jingyu should have sensed it. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the 2 of them as she walked directly towards the Bu family village's villagers. Old grandpas, old ladies, later let Third Elder Miao promise you according to the Miao tribe's venomous oath, that he will not harass you anymore. In future, you don't need to worry about being harassed by the Miao tribe anymore. The villagers were so shocked by this turn of events that they couldn't react in time. It was just a matter of a moment. The Miao people, who had always been aggressive, overbearing and unreasonable, were actually obediently submitting before this young lady. Furthermore, she even swore a venomous oath to return them a peaceful life. Plop! A sound of someone kneeling on the ground was heard. Old T's face was filled with tears as he knelt on the ground. Young lady, you're the entire village's benefactor. Thank you. Thank you. Originally, they thought that today was because of their Bu family village, implicating this innocent young lady. They had not expected that. This young lady had saved the entire village. Yiqing Luo hurriedly knelt down on one knee and helped Old T up. Old Grandpa, didn't I ask for a pot of tea from you? Those villagers also started to kneel down. They all thanked Yiqing Luo for her help. How could Yiqing Luo accept so many elderly's kowtows? She immediately activated her profound energy and dragged their kneeling bodies. Old grandpas, old ladies, if you really want to thank me, in future when I come to the Bu family village, please brew me the best tea. Yiqing Luo helped Old T up. Old grandpa, I have some matters regarding Grandma Bu which I want to ask you. Old T raised his sleeve and wiped the tears off his face. Young lady, ask. As long as I know something, I will tell you everything without reservation. The Miao tribe kept robbing you just to find one person. Who is that person? Why are the Miao tribe looking for that person? Unless it was someone very important to the Miao tribe or someone very important to the Miao tribe. Why would the Miao tribe use such a method to find that person? Moreover, the Miao people seemed to be very certain. The person they were looking for was in the Bu family village? Elder T was stunned as his gaze went past Yiqing Luo and looked towards Third Elder Miao, who was helping Gu Jingyu to cure the Gu. His dry lips slightly pursed. To be honest, we really don't know who the Miao people are looking for. If we knew, we would not have endured the Miao people's plundering and brutal killings time and time again. The other villagers nodded in agreement. I've always felt that the Miao people are deliberately using this as an excuse to plunder our resources. We also want to know who exactly are the Miao people looking for, why that person is not standing out. After the villager finished speaking, he hurriedly explained, I'm not asking that person to step forward and throw away his life. It's just that the villagers of the Bu family village have suffered too much because of that person. More than 10 villagers have died. We should at least have the right to know. Yiqing Luo nodded, expressing her understanding. Listening to the dozens of villagers talking at once, Lin Fan felt a chill run down his spine. Chapter 24-29. Almost certain. The Bu family village's people were indeed not sure who the Miao tribesmen were looking for. But the Miao tribesmen were certain that the person they were looking for was in the Bu family village. Looked like they could only wait for Third Elder Miao to cure Gu Jingyu's Gu before they could get some information from him. about the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Third Elder Meow wiped his forehead full of sweat as he panted heavily as he sat heavily on the ground. His black short shirt was already soaked in sweat. Yiqing Luo walked over quickly as she looked at Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu's face wasn't as pale as before. His breathing had also calmed down. His furrowed brows from the pain and the uncontrollable coughing had also been smoothed out. Seeing Yiqing Luo looking at him, Gu Jingyu gave a gentle smile as he slowly shook his head. I feel much better now, it should be because the Gu has been cured. Yiqing Luo was assured as she glanced sideways at Third Elder Meow. Met with her gaze, Third Elder Meow instinctively crawled back a few steps. He had deeply experienced Yiqing Luo's boldness and method. As long as he could live on, he didn't need any integrity. His Gu, I've already cured it, quickly give me the antidote. Third Elder Meow's voice was still trembling. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as she raised her index finger and shook it at him. No hurry. Third Elder Meow's face turned pale. What else do you want to do? Also, use your Meow tribe's most vicious method. Promise that you will never harass the Bu family village again. Yiqing Luo said calmly. His casual tone almost caused Third Elder Meow's throat to taste a fishy sweetness, and he almost spat out blood. He suppressed his anger as he gritted his teeth and took a deep breath. All right, I promise. He was about to raise his finger as he made a perfunctory vow, but was stopped by Yiqing Luo's hand. Third Elder Meow frowned impatiently. What on earth are you? Before he could finish his words, Third Elder Meow saw Yiqing Luo barehandedly grabbing a tribesman from among those Meow tribesmen. The Meow tribe's most venomous oath, or perhaps curse. If Third Elder Meow isn't using the Meow tribe's venomous oath, then I'll let you personally experience what a venomous oath is. Yiqing Luo's threatening voice rang beside his ear. That Meow tribesman almost cried from fright. His body trembled as he met Third Elder Meow's warning glare. The Meow tribesman froze. In the next instant, a soft hand gently rested on his shoulder. Beside his ear, the girl's clear and cold voice said, You have to think about it carefully. I'm not someone you can casually threaten. The Meow tribesman did not know if he had fallen for the honey trap. He was still awed by Yiqing Luo's boldness. He nodded repeatedly. I don't dare to hide anything. I will tell you the truth. Third Elder Meow stomped his feet in anger. His vicious gaze landed on the tribesman. But Yiqing Luo directly rebutted. Why? Looking at Third Elder Meow's expression, it seemed that he didn't want to swear according to my request. Since that's the case, then I'll. No, how could that be? I'll swear right now, according to the Meow tribe's most venomous method. Third Elder Meow immediately opened his mouth as he speedily bit his finger and took out a strange-shaped goo worm. Following that, according to the Meow tribe's method, he gave his promise in front of everyone. Chapter 24:30. Third Elder Meow's hand which was holding on to that goo worm paused as he raised his head abruptly. You can't do this. Not only could he not find trouble with the Bu family village, he still had to protect the Bu family village from other troubles? This meant that his plan to use other channels to slaughter the Bu family village had been blocked. This slut. Why did she seem to be able to guess what he was thinking about? Yiqing Luo only smiled at him. She didn't say anything. Her smile was sweet, but it made that not breathtaking and could only be described as elegant, revealing a bit of enchanting look. But in Third Elder Meow's heart, a surge of terror and fear arose. He trembled slightly as he looked at that extremely faint smile. He closed his eyes, gritted his teeth, and spat out a few words. Fine. Count it on me. Yiqing Luo nodded in satisfaction. Now, can you give me the antidote? There was a poison in his body which he couldn't detect. Third Elder Meow was extremely terrified and frightened. Afraid that he would become like Yuan Kuang. And afraid that he would end up like Meow Rongrong, choosing to go into closed-door cultivation to detoxify. Yiqing Luo raised her finger and shook it. Third Elder Miao shut his eyes tightly, already used to Yiqing Luo going back on her words. Tell me your request clearly. I just want to find out something from you. Yiqing Luo walked to the stone table and sat down. Let's sit down and talk slowly. Third Elder Miao's legs were wobbly. How would he dare to move? Yiqing Luo didn't force him to sit down. Instead, he poured a cup of tea for Gu Jingyu and a cup for himself. Her actions were leisurely. Every action affected the hearts of the Miao people, following Yiqing Luo's actions. Third Elder Miao felt that he had aged by more than 10 years today. After Yiqing Luo finished pouring the tea, she opened her mouth slowly. Who is the person you're looking for in the Bu family village? Third Elder Miao's face turned pale. This is the Miao family's internal affairs. But it involves the Bu family village, then it's not an internal affair. Yiqing Luo sneered. Third Elder Miao averted his gaze. Other than this matter, I can tell you everything else that I know. What I want to know is this matter. Yiqing Luo didn't give in at all and was overbearing. She knew that the person the Miao tribe was looking for must be the internal affairs of the Miao tribe, and also the Miao tribe's secret. Otherwise, with the status of the Miao tribe in the Northern Waves continent, they wouldn't be able to survive. They could totally search for the person the Miao people were looking for, just like how Battle King General searched for her. Third Elder Miao's expression turned ugly. He knew clearly how difficult it was to deal with Yiqing Luo. But he had not expected Yiqing Luo to be so difficult to deal with. The person that the Miao tribe was looking for was related to the future development of the Miao tribe. If this girl found out, it would definitely destroy the peace of the Miao tribe. This kind of demon must not be allowed to set her target on the Miao tribe. Third Elder Miao would rather die than submit, huh? Yiqing Luo laughed in ridicule. It's rare that Third Elder Miao has such backbone, then I shall fulfill Third Elder Miao's wish, to sacrifice myself to protect the Miao tribe's secret. Saying that, she put down the teacup in her hands, stood up and said to Gu Jingyu, Master Gu, let's go. Gu Jingyu had regained his energy by now, even his complexion was back to normal. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he cooperated and stood up, following behind her. The two of them had barely walked a few steps. Chapter 24:31. Young lady? The Miao people were looking for a 14-year-old young lady? Why must she be 14 years old? A 14-year-old young lady can be found anywhere. Why must they run over to the Bu family village, which is filled with old grandpas and aunties? Yiqing Luo voiced out her doubts. Third Elder Miao's gaze was wavering. On his face, it was obvious that he was struggling, as though he was hesitating if he should say these things out. But he recalled what Yiqing Luo said, that his patience was not good. He was worried that Yiqing Luo would get impatient. In the end, he was defeated by the fear of death. It's not that a 14-year-old young lady can do it, but... Third Elder Miao clenched his fists tightly as his gaze turned towards those Miao people who were tied up. In his eyes, a sliver of murderous intent was fleeting. Following that, Third Elder Miao raised his head, as though he had made his final decision. He looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking. That 14-year-old young lady is the Miao tribe's traitor. According to the clues provided by the Miao tribe, after that traitor escaped from the Miao tribe, she hid in the Bu family village. After that, there was no more news of that traitor. So, that traitor's clues must be related to the Bu family village. When Third Elder Miao said this, he paused slightly. Since she's a traitor, why did you only come to the Bu family village to investigate? If she's really a traitor, wouldn't the Miao tribe have already asked the royal family or the Qinghua sect to step out? Yiqing Luo's smile rose slightly as she looked at Third Elder Miao with a smile which didn't look like a smile. I don't like to beat around the bush. Third Elder Miao better say it in the most straightforward way. Seeing her smile, Third Elder Miao's face turned black as he immediately said, That young lady is indeed a traitor. She stole our Miao tribe's most sacred ancient goo worm. Ancient goo worm? Yiqing Luo remembered that it was written in the information that Peach had given her. Ancient goo worm, that was the symbol of the Miao tribe. It was actually stolen? That traitor used the ancient goo worm and hid in the Bu family village. After that, we lost all contact. Even the Miao tribe's witchcraft has no way to trace that traitor's whereabouts. Third Elder Miao said, the matter of the ancient goo worm being stolen must not be spread at such a crucial juncture like the Saintess selection. Otherwise, the Miao clansmen will definitely panic. Therefore, the higher-ups gave me a private order to go to the Bu family village to find that traitor and retrieve the ancient goo worm. But the villagers said that they don't know who the person you're looking for is. In this village, if a 14-year-old young lady really came, how could they not remember? Yiqing Luo raised her doubts. This I don't know either. The order I received was to force that traitor to show himself in the Bu family village. The third elder shook his head hurriedly. It's not that I'm hiding anything, but, although we are elders, we don't have any real power in the Miao tribe. Most of the internal affairs of the Miao tribe, especially those related to the future of the Miao tribe wouldn't let me know too much. These words were not false. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Do you know who that traitor is? Chapter 2432. Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. Third Elder Miao could not wait any longer. The fear and uneasiness in his heart rose to the peak. I've told you everything. I've done everything you asked of me. Now give me the antidote. Antidote? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Third Elder Miao was so anxious that his entire face was twisted into a ball. Little ancestor, I really told you everything. Hurry up and give me the antidote. Can you please? The more anxious he was. Third Elder Miao felt waves of intense pain in his abdomen. He was extremely flustered. Thinking of Yuan Kuang's tragic state, he almost cried. The smile on Yiqing Luo's face gradually enlarged in Third Elder Miao's pupils. She chuckled and said, What antidote? You really believed it? Third Elder Miao stopped crying. For a moment, he could not wrap his head around it. Yiqing Luo covered her mouth as she burst out laughing. Third Elder Miao, I merely fed you it's just a pill which helps in detoxifying your body. Just squat in the latrine for 1 or 2 days and you'll be fine. You? Third Elder Miao's heart was filled with fear and unease. At this moment, he was actually told that it was just a joke? And he was in this joke. He allowed Yiqing Luo to knead him as he obediently answered all of her questions. You still have the energy to settle accounts with me? Yiqing Luo smiled as she pointed at Third Elder Miao's tummy. Be careful, don't drop it on your pants. Ugh. Third Elder Miao indeed didn't have the energy to settle the scores with Yiqing Luo. His stomach rumbled like an avalanche. Unable to bear it any longer, he pointed his finger at Yiqing Luo forcefully in the air. Then, he hugged his stomach and quickly fled. The remaining 50-odd Miao people were all abandoned here by Third Elder Miao. You really just gave it to him? Gu Jingyu looked at Third Elder Miao's expression and could not help but laugh. He had never expected this. Yiqing Luo actually used the medicinal pills made from croton as poison to coax Third Elder Miao. This was a psychological battle. Yiqing Luo had obtained a complete victory. Yiqing Luo smiled as she shrugged her shoulders. He's so gullible, I'm also very helpless. The smile on Gu Jingyu's lips became increasingly gentle. But Yiqing Luo didn't appreciate his warm smile. Instead, he walked directly to Elder T and said, The Miao people will not come to the Bu family village to harass you anymore, and Third Elder Miao will protect the safety of the Bu family village. You can rest assured. Old-time T was in a trance. Even when Yiqing Luo was talking to him, he didn't really understand. He just casually replied with a his eyes staring ahead without any focus. The villagers behind him expressed their gratitude one after another. Yiqing Luo responded with a smile. He followed Elder T's gaze and looked over. He saw the Miao tribesman frozen on the spot, unable to move. She gently patted Elder T's hand and smiled. These Miao people are used to following the third elder and doing evil. They have also bullied the Bu family village many times. Now, they are meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. If you want to take revenge, Elder T was stunned. The villagers behind him who were expressing their gratitude were also stunned. Killed those Miao people? Seek revenge for their Bu family village's dead villagers? Seek revenge for the humiliation they had suffered in the hands of the Miao people? Chapter 24:33. Yiqing Luo saw the expressions of the villagers. She curled her lips slightly as her voice became gentle. Of course, all of this depends on your own thoughts. The villagers looked at those Miao people. Then they looked at the surrounding villagers. After a while, an old villager in his 60s suddenly picked up his hoe and rushed over. Why didn't you kill them? They are not good people. They killed the innocent and bullied us. A villager rushed up. The other villagers couldn't hold it in any longer. They all carried their hoes and followed him. There were still some villagers who were filled with apprehension as they stood on the spot, hesitating and uneasy. Those indignant villagers. They were all in the past. The villagers who almost lost their lives in the hands of the Miao people. And quite a number of their loved ones had died in the hands of the Miao people. To the Miao people. How could these villagers not hate them? 10 over villagers raised their hoes and hit one of the Miao people with all their might. Those Miao people were firmly restrained by the silver wires and had no way to resist or evade. They bore the pain of the villagers' hoes smashing onto their bodies. The villagers vented the anger in their hearts. But, just as one of the villagers was about to smash the head of one of the Miao people with his hoe, that villager was unable to make his move. The rest of the villagers also stopped their actions of punching the Miao people. They looked towards that villager. That villager raised his hoe up high as his entire body tensed up and turned stiff. After some time, that villager suddenly let out a sorrowful and indignant howl. Ah. He used strength and threw the hoe in his hand onto the ground. His wrinkled face was filled with tears. I can't do it. I can't do it. They are all living people. If I were to avenge my loved ones who died in their hands and kill them, then what's the difference between me and them? No matter how much hatred and resentment, the villagers still couldn't kill them. The rest of the villagers were the same. They only wanted to beat the Miao people up, to vent the pain and anger from being bullied for such a long time. But they had never thought of killing them. One by one, the villagers threw down the hoes in their hands. Forget it. Little girl, you've already taught Third Elder Miao a lesson on our behalf, and you've also made Third Elder Miao swear a poison oath. That's enough. The villager who was the first to rush up smashed his hoe on the ground. Just leave them here and let them fend for themselves. The villager's choice could be said to be within Yiqing Luo's expectations. The villagers were kind to begin with. They were just ordinary people. How could they be like the Miao people or other Xian practitioners, viewing human lives as worthless? Just as you said, leave them here. Whether they live or die will depend on their luck. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly as she didn't persuade the villagers to harden their hearts and kill these Miao people to get rid of all future troubles. Anyway, this group of Miao people. However, he had seen Third Elder Miao's sorry state and humiliation today. Furthermore, he had personally witnessed Third Elder Miao betraying the Miao tribe. How could the Third Elder of the Miao tribe possibly let them live and return to the Miao tribe? These people would die sooner or later. So don't let these Miao people who were worse than beasts disturb the hearts of the Bu family village villagers. Chapter 24:34. Yiqing Luo turned her head back and saw Elder T hugging the things in his arms tightly. The expression on his face was extremely solemn. Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment and smiled. All right. Elder T walked straight to the small wooden house next to the tea shed. Just as he stepped one foot in, he suddenly thought of something and paused again. He looked at Gu Jingyu, who was treating the injured muscles and bones of the villagers who were kicked by the Miao tribesmen. "Young master, please wait here for a while," Elder T said apologetically. Gu Jingyu raised his head and revealed a warm smile as he shook his head. "No problem, I'll wait for you here." Elder T walked into the wooden house. Yiqing Luo took a look at Gu Jingyu and looked at those injured villagers. She took out a few bottles of medicine for external injuries from the profound phoenix ring and passed it to Gu Jingyu. "Sorry to trouble you." Her clear and gentle voice was as elegant as water. In an instant it made his heart jump uncontrollably. He stretched out his hand and received the medicine bottle from Yiqing Luo. Their fingers touched. Gu Jingyu's face floated a tinge of red. He quickly received the medicine bottle and turned around, looking at the villagers in front of him. Yiqing Luo had no feelings for Gu Jingyu. Naturally, she didn't notice Gu Jingyu's emotions. She totally didn't notice that Gu Jingyu had a different feeling towards her. After Yiqing Luo gave him the medicine, she directly walked into Elder T's wooden house. She just walked in. The wooden door behind her was shut tightly. Elder T walked to the table with a solemn face and placed those little things and paintings on the table. "Young lady, although this is the first time we met, but I believe you. You are a kind-hearted good lady." Elder T said seriously, "So, this matter? I'm only telling you alone." Yiqing Luo sat by the side and from Elder T's words, she heard some deeper meaning. "What you want to say is related to that Miao tribe traitor which third Elder Miao mentioned?" Elder T's expression revealed an obvious astonishment. After some time, he nodded. "Yes." Third Elder Miao said, "That young lady reached Bu family village and disappeared. Do you know who that young lady is?" Yiqing Luo's interest was piqued as she placed both hands on the table and asked him seriously. Miao tribe's matter. She actually didn't have any intention of getting involved. But her purpose in coming to the Northern Wave continent was to take away the person with the best Gu skill in the Miao tribe and bring him back to the West continent. Miao Rongrong's personality. Even if she was in the palm of her hand, Yiqing Luo still doubted Miao Rongrong's ability. And this, he made the entire Miao tribe search for the young girl with the ancient Gu worm. Perhaps he could also help her. Most importantly, she had made Miao Rongrong look like that. With Miao Rongrong's personality, she would definitely not let the matter rest. Rather than waiting for Miao Rongrong to cause trouble for her, it would be better to think of a way to stop Miao Rongrong from finding trouble with her. So, the matter of the Miao tribe searching for this young girl, she was determined to take care of it. Actually, the Miao people kept coming to the Bu family village to look for someone. At first, I really didn't know who they were looking for, because the Bu family village had never seen such a young girl. They were passing by the Bu family village. Most of them were married women. She followed her husband to the holy spring to pray for a child. However, when third Elder Miao mentioned hiding in the Bu family village with an ancient Gu worm, I thought of someone. Chapter 24:35. Young lad? Third Elder Miao said it was a young lady. But the one who brought the Gu worm was a young lad? Third Elder Miao was such a timid person, he wouldn't dare to lie to her at that critical juncture. It was even more impossible for Elder T to lie to her. Could it be that young lady, in order to avoid the Miao people's pursuit? So, she deliberately disguised as a man to confuse them? That young lad is a very intelligent and quick-witted person, and my wife, son and daughter-in-law liked him very much. He paused, as though he was recalling the past. My grandchildren are brothers with that young lad, and their relationship is very close. I also treated him as my second grandson. Then why did she only stay in the Bu family village for half a month? Yiqing Luo could tell that Elder T really liked that young lad. Elder T shook his head. That day, he left in a hurry, and only had time to say goodbye to us before he left in a hurry. After that, I have never seen him again. Speaking of this, Elder T suddenly recalled something. When he came to say goodbye, my wife couldn't bear to let him go, he said. He must leave, otherwise the Bu family village will be destroyed because of him. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. In her mind, a light flashed past. She seemed to have thought of something as her lips curled into a faint smile. When did Grandma Bu leave the village? About 7 to 8 days after that young lad left the village. The Miao people who were originally circling around the Bu family village directly rushed to the Bu family village, wantonly plundering their resources, humiliating the villagers. Elder T's fist clenched tightly. Towards the Miao people, he had always harbored hatred. The Miao people came once every 3 days, became once every 2 days, and after that, they came every day to create trouble. The young villagers couldn't stand it, so they brought their families and fled to the big city. At that time, my son and daughter-in-law also escaped. The two of them brought their 2 children and headed to Qinghua City, thinking that after they had settled down in Qinghua City, they would come to the Bu family village to fetch us. But, after waiting for a month, an entire month, those villagers who fled to the big city all went missing. My son, my daughter-in-law all went missing. Elder T's voice was choked with emotion. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk a little. The people of the Miao tribe were certain that the person they were searching for was in the Bu family village. How could they let the villagers of the Bu family village leave? Those villagers who had formed teams to escape to the big city, there was no more news. It was highly possible that he had been killed by the Miao people. This was only Yiqing Luo's guess. Naturally, she wouldn't say it out loud. After all, the villagers here all had the thought of fleeing to the big city with their sons and daughters. They had been supporting themselves and staying in the Bu family village to wait for their loved ones. Moreover, Yiqing Luo still had some doubts in her heart. Back then, when old T's son and daughter-in-law fled the Bu family village with their children, if he was really killed by the Miao people, then, how could Grandma Bu's grandson and granddaughter be killed by Yuan Kuang in Happy Heart City? A guess, it was just a guess. We couldn't get any news from our family, so, this old woman secretly left the Bu family village and went to Qinghua City to look for our son, until now, one by one, they had all lost contact. Elder T was actually a little panicked, but he always looked on the bright side. Chapter 2436. If Third Elder Miao hadn't mentioned the ancient goo worm just now, I might not have connected the young lady that the Miao people were searching for with that young man. Elder T sighed. When he first came to my house, he was covered in wounds. He held a fist-sized bug in his arms like it was a treasure. I had never thought that it would be the Miao tribe's goo worm. The young lad also said that the worm was the only thing that his mother left for him. In that case, the person that the Miao people were looking for should be the young man that old-time T mentioned. And the Miao people said that it was a 14-year-old girl. In that case, her previous guess of a woman disguised as a man was established. Little girl, I will only tell you about this matter. If you have the chance, you can find that little fellow, little girl, tell her not to return to the Bu family village, and don't think about coming to the Bu family village to see me. Elder T said what was on her mind and suddenly felt much more relaxed. From the moment Third Elder Miao mentioned the symbol of the person he was looking for, his heart had always been on tenterhooks. Third Elder Miao spoke. The more certain he was, the more certain he was. The person the Miao people were looking for was the young lad, who had stayed in his house for half a month. Tell this little girl these secrets. It wasn't just because the little girl had saved the Bu family village, but he believed, if it was this little girl would definitely help the young man. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Don't you blame her for disturbing the peace of the Bu family village? If it wasn't for her, the Miao people wouldn't have harassed the Bu family village. Elder T, on the other hand, cracked a smile. It was a kind and warm smile. She once brought our Bu family village precious joy. In my heart, I've long regarded her as family, so how could I blame her? Elder T's words warmed Yi-Ching Luo's heart. The simple Bu family village. The villagers were simple and honest. Fortunately, she had come to the Bu family village today. She protected the Bu family. Only then did he not let these kind and gentle people get hurt. Yi-Ching Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly. Her smile was extremely gentle. If I see her, I will help her. After hearing Yi-Ching Luo's words, Elder T's solemn expression finally relaxed. He sighed heavily and a guilty expression appeared on his face. I'm sorry, I used your kindness. But, other than you, I don't know who else to tell this secret to. Yi-Ching Luo gently curved her pink lips. It's not considered as using. Actually, if the person you're talking about is really the young girl that third Elder Miao mentioned, then I have my reasons for looking for her. Elder T didn't care what Yi-Ching Luo's motive was, he still smiled. You can protect her for me. The two of them exchanged a few more words. Outside the door, the sound of the villagers shouting for food could be heard. Only then did the two walk out of the wooden house. The tea shed was already filled with plate after plate of dishes. Although it didn't look beautiful, it made people feel warm. The villagers took advantage of the time when she was talking to Elder T and Gu Jingyu was treating the injured. The dishes were specially made by him. It was already made from the best materials in the Bu family village. Yi-Ching Luo's lips curled into a smile as she followed the villagers to their seat. This meal, Yi-Ching Luo ate extremely comfortably. After the meal, Yi-Ching Luo bade farewell to the villagers and prepared to leave. If she didn't return. Chapter 2437. Furthermore, she should go back to settle the matters at the Battle King's residence. The injured villagers were all bandaged up. They would be back to normal after a few days of recuperation. Those Miao tribesmen who were restrained by the silver wires, Yi-Ching Luo was prepared to bring them to that small forest. Under the grateful gazes of the villagers, the two of them were sent to the village entrance. Yi-Ching Luo halted her footsteps as she looked at Elder T. Old Grandpa, you really don't intend to go to Chinua City? Elder T lowered his head as he shook his head slowly. Not going. If it's possible, help me pass this letter to this old woman. He took out a crumpled letter from his bosom. Apparently, it wasn't just written. It was a letter which he had written for a long time. Yi-Ching Luo received the letter and kept it solemnly. I will definitely pass the letter to her. On the way back to Chinua City, Gu Jingyu had been trying to find a topic as he tried to find out about Yi-Ching Luo's news. On account that Gu Jingyu had suffered from third Elder Miao's venom in order to save her, Yi-Ching Luo replied to a few simple questions. But towards the end, Gu Jingyu had already asked about her family's situation. Yi-Ching Luo finally sensed that something was amiss. Although her EQ wasn't considered high. But, if she didn't sense wrongly, this Gu Feng Sek's young matriarch seemed to be interested in her? Inquiring about her family's situation. Was he intending to propose marriage? This thought made Yi-Ching Luo felt as though she was struck by lightning. It should be. She was too narcissistic. After all, the face she had changed was not considered as a great beauty. With Gu Jingyu's status as a young matriarch, he should have seen all kinds of beauties. Cough! Yi-Ching Luo cleared her throat as she stopped in her tracks. Gu Jingyu, who was inquiring about Yi-Ching Luo's family situation, also stopped in his tracks as he looked at her warmly. That gaze seemed as though he could only tolerate her alone in this world. Yi-Ching Luo shuddered. That? Young matriarch Gu. Can I ask you a question? Gu Jingyu's eyes brightened slightly, and the smile on his face was tinged with a hint of joy. I asked you so many questions, so you can naturally ask me back. Are you? Yi-Ching Luo deliberated over her words. Interested in me? Gu Jingyu's smile froze, and a suspicious blush appeared on his face. He frantically shifted his gaze away, not daring to look at Yi-Ching Luo. He seemed to have not expected that she would expose his thoughts so straightforwardly. Gu Jingyu's expression made Yi-Ching Luo feel that there was nothing left to live for. Oh no, This was obviously true. She had hit the nail on the head. She had already changed her appearance, yet she could still attract the attention of men. Could it be that her charisma was that strong? Yi Qing Luo scratched the back of her head. If you're really interested in me, it's better to dispel this idea as soon as possible. Why? Gu Jingyu raised his head abruptly as his thin lips pursed slightly. Miss Yi, although I'm Gu Feng's sex young matriarch, but I'm not the same as those hedonistic sons. He anxiously tried to explain himself as his face bore a rare serious look. My background is clean and I don't have any other women by my side. Moreover, I've always felt that true love and liking should only be given to one person. If you're able to be with me, I promise you I will absolutely not take in concubines. Cough cough cough. Yi Qing Luo was so frightened that she started coughing violently. Chapter 24:38. Gu Jingyu's face turned pale, as though he had been struck by lightning, staring at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her forehead as she sighed helplessly. Do I look like someone who doesn't have a fiancé? No. Gu Jingyu took some time before he found back his voice as his face was still pale. I'm very surprised you've already betrothed yourself to a fiancé. Looking at Gu Jingyu's expression, which had suffered a huge blow, Yi Qing Luo didn't want to reveal any more hot news. She only nodded her head casually. Following that, she persuaded him earnestly. So, young sect master Gu, your future is infinitely bright, so you shouldn't just place your sights on me alone. Just like what you said, you don't have any other ladies by your side, so when you see me, you will have a different feeling towards me. Actually, this isn't what you think of as love and like. But this was their first meeting, and they didn't spend much time together. Yi Qing Luo didn't think that Gu Jingyu's feelings towards her were that deep. At most, he was just interested. She had to cut off Gu Jingyu's interest towards her as soon as possible. To Gu Jingyu, to her, it had to be better. Most importantly, her Xian was a moving vinegar jar. One Zhu Wu Xian had already made Xian extremely unhappy. If there was another Gu Jingyu, Xian would probably tie her to his side. Recalling that Xiao Wu Wu had already gone to the upper realm to tell Xian about the matters in the northern continent, there was a possibility that Xian would be back soon. Before Xian returned, this peach blossom must be cut off without leaving any traces behind. Just as Yi Qing Luo was cursing incessantly in her heart, Gu Jingyu's expression instantly turned extremely gloomy. His brows were filled with grief. It had long lost its usual warmth. His fingers clenched tightly as his eyes, which were like the vast stars, were slightly red. You're not me, so how would you know if I love and like you? His voice was filled with the pain he was enduring, as though he was complaining about Yi Qing Luo's cruelty. Yi Qing Luo's throat tightened as she looked at the pale-faced man with red eyes, speechless. Indeed, she wasn't Gu Jingyu. She was unable to stand on Gu Jingyu's position to judge his feelings. However, Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips as her alluring eyes lifted up slightly, meeting his reddened eyes. Sorry, my heart is very small and can only accommodate my fiancé alone. Gu Jingyu clenched his fists even tighter by his side. His fingertips had already turned white. Yi Qing Luo could only pretend not to see it. Sometimes, giving the other party hope when there was no hope was truly cruel. She faintly said, "Many thanks for blocking Third Elder Miao's insect poison for me in the Bu family village. I will remember this kindness." With that, she turned around and walked towards the other side of the city gate. Gu Jingyu opened his mouth several times, wanting to chase after her and call her. But when the words reached the tip of his tongue, recalling Yi Qing Luo's cold gaze earlier, all the words were stuck in his throat. Finally, the hand that was stretched out in mid-air slowly lowered. It was as if he had lost all his strength. By the time Yi Qing Luo returned to the basement of the Peach Blossom restaurant, it was already very late. Smelling Yi Qing Luo's scent nearing, Kitty Lee was the first to scurry out as she held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Sister, you're finally back. Yi Qing Luo rubbed Kitty Lee's little head. I've made you worried. Kitty Lee rubbed her head against her body. Chapter 2439. Yi Qing Luo grinned as she rubbed Kitty Lee's head. Well done, my little kitty. Kitty Lee smiled contentedly at the compliment. What kind of messy plan are you making in the dark again? Suddenly, the door in front of them opened and a slender and tall figure walked out. Jun Qingwu was dressed in a lotus-colored brocade long dress, which accentuated her temperament and made her look extremely charming. Seeing Jun Qingwu, Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up as she hugged Kitty Lee and went forward. Little Wu, when did you come back? She just went over. Jun Qingwu had already raised her hand and placed it on Yi Qing Luo's forehead. Ayaya, little Wu, a day apart feels like 3 years, don't be so heartless. Yi Qing Luo blinked her long and narrow eyes as she scurried towards Jun Qingwu again. Looking at such a shameless sister. Kitty Lee couldn't bear to look at her. She used her claws to cover her eyes and scurried out of Yi Qing Luo's arms. Her arms no longer had the soft touch of a kitten. Yi Qing Luo directly opened her arms and pounced towards Jun Qingwu. Stop! Jun Qingwu stopped Yi Qing Luo and rolled her eyes before turning around and walked into the room. Yi Qing Luo's smile widened as her brows were dyed with a dimple. She quickly caught up. Entering the room, Jun Qingwu flicked her sleeves and a light breeze closed the door. Little Wu, Yi Qing Luo sat opposite Jun Qingwu with a smile. That deliberately prolonged ending made Jun Qingwu's petite body tremble as she looked at her in disgust. You want to ask about the Overlord, right? Yi Qing Luo smiled even more brilliantly. You're indeed Little Wu, you can even guess someone's heart so accurately. Jun Qingwu rolled her eyes again. It's written all over your face, do you need me to guess? This means that someone treats Little Wu as one of their own. Everything is written on your face. That's the trust in Little Wu. Yi Qing Luo's curved eyes were filled with a pool of spring water. Jun Qingwu. In order to know the news of the Overlord in the upper realm, Little Qing Luo, you don't even want your integrity? This thick-skinned, he was really shameless. Jun Qingwu didn't keep Yi Qing Luo in suspense. I have indeed met the Overlord, and the matter of Miao family colluding with the people from the upper realm has already been told to the Overlord. He asked me to tell you that as long as he's around, there's no need to worry about other unnecessary factors. Just go ahead and do things your own way. After conveying this message, the corner of Jun Qingwu's mouth twitched. She couldn't imagine, once the Overlord and Shao Qing were together, just how lovey-dovey would they become. These two people clearly hadn't even met face to face. They were clearly separated by a plane. She was even fed a mouthful of dog food for no reason. However, when Jun Qingwu looked at the young girl in front of her, that pair of charming eyes gradually lit up after listening to her words. She took a deep breath. Fine, if I'm fed dog food, so be it. He had to get used to it. Little Wu, then did he say when he'll be back? Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly, revealing the nervousness in her heart. Jun Qingwu remained silent for a moment. His matters in the upper realm have not been settled. After he's settled those matters, he'll be back immediately. Yi Qing Luo's face flashed past a sliver of disappointment. Chapter 2440. Yi Qing Luo covered her face, which was pinched in pain. Her emotions were still somewhat unstable. There was no sign of the joyous spirit when she saw Jun Qingwu earlier. She stretched out her arm and placed it on the table, immediately placing her face on the table. She felt the cold touch of the table, soaking through her skin. Yi Qing Luo sighed helplessly. Xiao Wu Wu, Xian He. What is his identity? Is he in the upper realm? The same as in Nirvana realm. A highly respected person. Jun Qingwu was about to comfort her when she paused. Her cold and elegant face froze for a moment. Jun Qingwu's emotions changed very quickly. Yi Qing Luo was feeling lost and had not raised her head to discover the change in Jun Qingwu's expression. She heard Jun Qingwu's voice. No matter where the Overlord is, he will not be an ordinary person. As for the specific identity of the Overlord, I think the Overlord would like to tell you personally. Yiqing Luo's eyes moved slightly. She was naturally clear. Dmo Xian was absolutely not an ordinary person. Even in the upper realm, his status, his identity were all revered. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo felt that the gap between her and Dmo Xian was getting bigger and bigger. She even said that she wanted to be on par with Dmo Xian. Today, she couldn't even head to the upper realm. Xiao Qing Luo, what's with this pitiful expression? A hand poked Yiqing Luo's head hard. Yiqing Luo sucked in a breath of cold air in pain, hugged her head and raised her head. Jun Qing Wu looked at her without blinking, her slender brows raised high. Isn't it just a man not by your side? The Overlord is not seducing other women outside, not abandoning you, not abandoning you. What nonsense are you thinking about in this brain of yours? Jun Qing Wu, who had always been cold and aloof, now put on an earnest and well-intentioned look. But it made Yiqing Luo feel refreshed and laughed out loud. She revealed the same cheeky smile from before. Xiao Wuwu, you're really trying your best to persuade me to pull myself together. Seeing that Xiao Wuwu is so worried about me, I'll forget about Xian and all that. Shoo, I am not worried about you. I am just fulfilling my promise to the Overlord. Jun Qing Wu pushed Yiqing Luo away with a look of disgust. But Yiqing Luo regained her smile. Jun Qing Wu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Yiqing Luo didn't miss Jun Qing Wu's relaxed expression as she smiled sweetly. I know, there's a huge disparity between Xian and me. Those who know Xian all feel that. I'm not worthy of Xian, however. Xian chose me. Regardless of whether I was worthy or not, the person Xian loved was me. Even if it's for Xian. I will work hard to make myself stronger, work hard to be able to keep up with Xian's footsteps, work hard to make everyone recognize my qualifications to be by Xian's side. Seeing that Yiqing Luo's emotions had returned back to her confident and flamboyant self, Jun Qing Wu looked at Kitty Li, who was sitting at the side and chewing on a biscuit. Alright, you've found out more or less about Dizun. Now, tell me, what scheme did you and Kitty Li plan? How is this a scheme? Yiqing Luo put on a shy look as she patted Jun Qing Wu's shoulder. It's just a small prank, wait till daybreak. I'll bring you to watch a good show. Your smile is so sinister. Who would believe you if you said it wasn't a scheme? Jun Qing Wu rolled her eyes. Who would believe that? Yiqing Luo turned to look at Kitty Li. Kitty, do you believe it? Chapter 2441. The next day. It wasn't even 5 o'clock in the morning when Peach scuttled into Yiqing Luo's room and actually woke Yiqing Luo, Li Mao and the rest up. Qing Luo, something big has happened. Peach pressed her hands on Yiqing Luo's shoulders and pressed hard. Do you know there are more than 10 black-robed men's corpses hanging at the entrance of the Battle King's residence? Yiqing Luo yawned. I know. Peach was stunned. She had just received the news and Qing Luo knew about it so quickly? Li Mao rubbed her sleepy eyes. Mao knows too. Peach immediately released Yiqing Luo's shoulders with a frustrated look and took a few steps back. You. How did you know before me? Jun Qing Wu was already dressed neatly and leaned lazily against the door. The good show you were talking about, is it this one? Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. Isn't this show exciting? Jun Qing Wu arrogantly rolled her eyes at her. Peach then seemed to understand the meaning in their words. You mean, this matter is done by you? Yiqing Luo shook her head. No. Peach heaved a sigh of relief and patted her chest. I knew it, how could such a thing happen under the nose of the 3,000 peach blossoms, I don't even know. Before she could finish her words, Peach felt her wrist being grabbed by something. Peach lowered her head, and met with a pair of watery eyes. Her heart warmed. Mao, what's the matter? Kitty Li tilted her head, tugged at her sleeve, and said very honestly, the thing you said, it was Kitty who did it. Peach was like a bolt of lightning. She looked like she had suffered a serious blow as her delicate body swayed and fell backwards. You actually hid it from me and did such a big thing. If it was done by Yiqing Luo, she could still comfort herself a little. After all, Yiqing Luo was a pervert. What Yiqing Luo did, it was natural that the 3,000 peach blossoms had no inkling. But this matter was actually done by Li Mao. Peach expressed that she had suffered a huge blow. Peach, have you been hooking up with some handsome young man recently? They don't even care about the 3,000 peach blossoms anymore. Yiqing Luo stood up lazily as she raised her hand and patted Peach's shoulder. The news that the Battle King's manor had sent soldiers to hunt me down, you actually haven't received it till now. TSK. Looks like General Battle King is really on guard against your 3,000 peach blossoms. Peach covered her face and screamed, "What handsome young man! The fact that I fell for Jean Z means that I'm not someone who looks at appearances. How could I be seduced by a pretty boy? I'll go investigate the warlord's mansion right now." With that, Peach ran out with a thunderous look on her face. Wait. Yiqing Luo was tickled by Peach's actions as she called out to him, "Help me investigate on the South Continent's young matriarch, his real motive for coming to the North Continent and Bu family village, as well as the Miao tribe's ancient goo worm." Peach stared at her helplessly. "You're really rude. After all, I am your idol." Yiqing Luo nodded her head and smiled. Peach clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. "Consider it that I've fallen into your hands." Saying that, she turned around angrily and left the room. Yiqing Luo waved her hand behind her back and laughed loudly. "Little Peach, thank you." Peach left even faster. Chapter 2442. Outside the Battle King's residence, there were quite a number of commoners who pretended to be passers-by. In actual fact, they were trying to find out the gossip about the Battle King's residence. Although they knew clearly in their hearts, the more gossip about the Battle King's residence, the faster they would die. But that couldn't stop the commoner's heart from gossiping. "You've all heard about it. When I passed by the Battle King's residence, I saw 10 over-bloody corpses hanging at the entrance. Who's declaring war on the Battle King's residence? This must be a provocation. Someone is targeting the Battle King's residence." The commoners who knew about it were discussing, and those passers-by who were attracted by the solemn atmosphere of the Battle King's residence were astonished after hearing the commoners' discussion. "I was wondering why there were so many soldiers guarding the Battle King's residence so early in the morning, so it's because of this matter." "Say, who do you think would do such a thing with such great fanfare? It's going to be Qinuasek's sovereign's 50th birthday soon. For such a thing to happen in the Battle King's residence, wouldn't it be infuriating to Qinuasek's sovereign?" "That's right, I really don't know who the Battle King's residence has offended. There's actually someone who dares to provoke the Battle King's residence in Qinua City." When Yiqing Luo, Jun Qingwu and Kitty Li arrived at the Battle King's residence, it was extremely crowded outside the Battle King's residence. At this time, it was not even 7 o'clock in the morning yet. Outside the Battle King's residence, rows of well-trained soldiers stood upright, preventing anyone who came to inquire about the news or visit to enter the residence. Yiqing Luo leaned forward a little. Although the outside of the residence had been cleaned, but the smell of blood was still so pungent. Yiqing Luo's group of 3 ladies, all of them had elegant figures and their looks weren't bad. Towards beautiful things, everyone's eyes were always able to discover it quickly. Very quickly, someone recognized Yiqing Luo as the young lady whom General Battle King had ordered the entire city to search for. Thinking back to this morning's gossip, the commoner's gaze towards Yiqing Luo was instantly filled with fear. Those corpses. Could it be this young lady's doing? During this period of time, the common people's minds were filled with all sorts of conjectures. There was a young girl named Yi Luo, and a secret that had to be told to the warlord's mansion. When the commoners' gazes were all gathered onto Yiqing Luo, A man dressed like a general who was guarding the entrance of the warlord's mansion walked over. "Are you Miss Yi Luo?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and raised her eyes to meet the general's eyes. "Don't tell me. General Battle King specially asked you to wait for me here?" The general's face darkened, and a dignified aura was released. In his heart, he was also a little surprised. Normally, ordinary people would be scared out of their wits when they saw him. This young girl actually dared to look him in the eye and even guessed his purpose here? No wonder. Why would General Zhan Wang pay so much attention to this girl and be so vigilant? Is this the attitude of General Battle King when he invites guests into his residence? Yi Qing Luo sneered when she sensed the general's threatening aura. That general was stunned as he became more and more curious and concerned about Yi Qing Luo's identity. "Miss, please enter." Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards, with a calm and unperturbed look. His left hand was held by Kitty Li. His right hand was hooked around Jun Qing Wu's wrist. Hugging on both sides, he followed behind that general. Chapter 2443. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and shrugged her shoulders. "Oh, then there's nothing to talk about." The general looked at the two beautiful ladies. One was lovely and charming, while the other was cold and aloof. He thought that these two ladies wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. If he were to let Miss Yi Luo leave just like that, the War King General would definitely blame him. Hence, the general stretched out his hand and made a "please" gesture. "Three ladies, please." Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and walked past the general directly into the Battle King's residence. The general stared at the trio's back as his eyes sunk slightly. Behind him, the commoners were pointing at Yi Qing Luo and the others' backs. They were all guessing. What was the background of this famous red-robed young lady in Qinghua City? What was her relationship with the Battle King's residence? Why was it that even the people sent by the royal family to inquire about what happened were stopped outside the Battle King's residence? But that young lady was welcomed into the Battle King's residence. The speed at which the commoners in Qinghua City spread gossip was rather fast. It was just the time for a stick of incense to burn. This matter had already spread like wildfire in Qinghua City. More and more commoners gathered at the Battle King's residence to watch the show. Inside the Battle King's residence, the general brought Yi Qing Luo and the other two to the meeting hall of the Battle King's residence. The door of the meeting hall was wide open. There was a strong smell of blood coming from inside the room. Yi Qing Luo took a look and saw the black-robed men's corpses lying on the ground, dripping with blood. The Battle King's expression was gloomy, as if he was shrouded in a layer of dark clouds. He sat on the main seat and pointed at the corpses on the ground, while berating the soldier standing beside him. The soldier bowed his body and kept saying something. But this angered the Battle King even more. The Battle King roared as he raised his palm and sent that soldier flying. A lump of something flew towards him. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly as she pulled the two people beside her to avoid it. The soldier fell heavily to the ground and rolled a few times. The Battle King also saw Yi Qing Luo standing at the door. His malicious eyes suddenly turned sinister as he slammed the table hard and stood up. "Yi Luo? You're finally here." Yi Qing Luo hugged on both sides as she leisurely walked into the meeting hall. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly narrowed. His tone was extremely casual. "If I didn't come, wouldn't General Zhan Wang blame all the soldiers under him?" She spoke. He had already walked to the wooden chairs on both sides of the meeting hall. The three of them sat down on their own. Yi Qing Luo propped her chin as she blinked her eyes at Battle King. No matter what, these soldiers are all brothers who had followed General Battle King for so many years. General Battle King had merely met with some unsatisfactory matters, so there's no need to vent all your anger on your own brothers. Furthermore, you're so ruthless, as if you don't care about the lives of your brothers. General War King, aren't you afraid of disappointing your brothers? Yi Qing Luo's voice was very soft. His tone was nonchalant. It was as if he had said it casually. But it made Battle King's face turn black completely. Young lady, are you trying to sow discord between this general and the soldiers? Stating the truth, in General Battle King's eyes, is it sowing discord? Yi Qing Luo sneered. If General Battle King feels that it's sowing discord, then so be it. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's indifferent expression, Battle King was so angry that his chest was heaving up and down violently. Chapter 2444. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes curled upwards. Battle King is ridiculous, do you think? You have the cheek to question me? These are my soldiers. They are my brothers who have risked their lives for me. Why can't I question you? Battle King clenched his fists tightly as the veins on his forehead popped out. Yi Qing Luo burst out laughing with a pff. She looked sideways at Kitty Lee and smiled faintly. Kitty. Kitty Lee's watery eyes lit up as she turned her head and looked at Battle King. She had a sweet smile on her face, and her eyes were filled with excitement and were extremely bright. She suddenly let out a shrill cry. Her body suddenly turned into a shadow as she stretched out her hands and scratched towards Battle King's face. Presumptuous! Battle King didn't expect that Yi Qing Luo dared to make a move on him in front of so many of his subordinates in his territory. Immediately, anger welled up in his heart, and he counterattacked with a backhand. But just as Kitty Lee's claws were about to scratch Battle King's face, just as Battle King's counterattack was about to land on Kitty Lee, Battle King's body suddenly staggered a step forward. His counterattack hit nothing but air. He only saw a black shadow passing by in front of him. He took a closer look, not knowing when Kitty Lee had already returned to Yi Qing Luo's side, as she sat obediently, as though nothing had happened earlier at all. This was a blatant humiliation. Battle King's face was gloomy and terrifying. He was actually played by a little girl. Miss Yi Luo, what do you mean by this? Battle King's eyes were cold as he asked angrily with murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo leaned lazily against the chair as her lips curled up slightly as she gave a light smile. According to General Battle King's habits, shouldn't General Battle King be sitting there obediently, waiting for the enemy to kill you, before letting your trusted aide take revenge for you? This sentence was obviously ridiculing Battle King. The War King's expression immediately darkened. Miss Yi Luo, are you trying to push the blame for the deaths of my brothers onto me? Yi Qing Luo covered her mouth as she gave a low laugh. Her smile was extremely flirtatious. Am I wrong? When General Zhan Wang sent your brothers to kill me, you should have thought of the consequences. Come to think of it, the deaths of your brothers were caused by you, the general. You're talking nonsense. The War King slammed the table and said righteously, How could I send my soldiers to kill you? You're just a little girl. Do you think you're worthy of me sending my soldiers to kill you? No one will believe such words even if you say it out. The War King made up his mind. Anyway, Yi Qing Luo had no evidence to accuse him of trying to assassinate her. No matter who it was, they wouldn't believe it. He was the dignified Northern Wave Continent's War King General. He would send his trusted aide to kill a young girl. Moreover, this young lady had a criminal record. He had targeted Yuan Kuang and poisoned him. He could definitely insist that this little girl was a spy sent by another continent to deliberately target the Warlord Mansion. She wanted to weaken the Warlord Mansion's strength so that it would be easier for her to invade the Northern Wave continent. When this speculation spread, whether it was true or false, this young lady would not be able to walk out of the Northern Wave continent alive. When the War King thought of this, his eyes flashed a sharp and sinister cold light. Just as he was about to open his mouth to counter Yi Qing Luo, the housekeeper's voice suddenly came from the door. General, the Southern Wave Continent's Gu Feng Sect's young matriarch requests an audience. I won't see you. Chapter 2445. As soon as he finished speaking, the warlord's voice paused. He straightened his face and walked towards the housekeeper. Who did you just say? The housekeeper was about to go back to report when he heard Battle King's question and turned around respectfully. Southern Continent's Gu Feng Sect's young matriarch. Gu Feng Sect's young matriarch? Battle King frowned slightly. Out of the corner of his eyes, he glanced at the three women sitting in the hall with a hesitant expression. As for Gu Feng Sek's young matriarch, he had long wanted to rope her in. After all, Gu Feng sect was the real #1 sect in southern continent. No matter if it was the royal family or other families, no one could restrain Gu Feng sect. Unlike West Continent where Three Springs sect was managed by Yi Tianquang, they were gradually declining, and no matter which large family clan it was, they could casually step on them. Unlike Northern Continent, although Qin Yu sect's status was outstanding, but it was still mutually restraining with the royal family and the Miao Gu family. So, if he could get to know Gu Feng sect's young matriarch, to his position in the Northern Wave Continent, there were only advantages and no disadvantages. But helplessly, Southern Continent and Northern Continent were in opposite directions and were very far apart. He had no chance to interact with Gu Feng sect's young matriarch. Now, Gu Feng sect's young matriarch had personally paid a visit. He pretended not to see her. There might not be such a chance in the future. Thinking of this, Battle King finally said, "Quick, invite Gu Feng sect's young matriarch in." The housekeeper nodded and retreated. Battle King flicked his sleeves and returned to the meeting hall with a cold smile. "Count yourself lucky, I have a distinguished guest visiting today, so I won't haggle with you." After that, he glanced at the manservant at the side. "Send the three ladies out from the back door." The manservant stepped forward and was about to leave with Yi Qing Luo and the others. Yi Qing Luo sat lazily on the chair, not moving at all. "Tisk, General Battle King is really awe-inspiring. Do you think I'm someone whom you can summon at your beck and call? Yi Luo, don't try to fool around. You should feel lucky that I am willing to let you go." Battle King's face sunk as he threatened. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laughed. "I'm afraid General Battle King still hasn't figured out the situation. What do you think is the reason why I walked into your Battle King's residence today?" The War King's expression changed. Thinking that the Gu Feng sect's young sect master was about to arrive, he clenched his teeth and said angrily, "I don't have the time to talk nonsense with you here. Men, send them out." Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly, looking at the servant who was rushing over and trying to take them away by force. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. An invisible profound energy sent those people flying out. Battle Monarch's sword-like brows turned sinister as his palm swiftly pressed down on Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo, however, stood up leisurely. Her red clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. There was a trace of bloodthirsty coldness on her beautiful face. Battle King's body inexplicably stiffened. Under Yi Qing Luo's gaze, he was suppressed to the point that he was unable to move. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up as she enunciated each word clearly. "Now, it's not whether General Battle King wants to find trouble with me or not, but I want to seek justice for myself." Her brows arched upwards. It was both enchanting and cold. "I will not let the matter of General Battle King sending soldiers to kill me go. If General Battle King is unable to give me a satisfactory answer, I will put this debt on General Battle King's head." Chapter 2446. Battle King felt his heart tightening. It was as if an ice-cold hand had ruthlessly strangled his heart. That coldness, it made it difficult for him to even breathe. "General Battle King, since you have the guts to send your men to hunt me down, then you should be prepared to bear the consequences." Yi Qing Luo was fearless in the face of Battle King's gloomy expression. Battle King was furious. He knew that this slut was the bane of the Yuan family. Nothing good would come out of meeting her. She had to create trouble when the young matriarch of the Gu Feng sect came to visit. Thinking that the young sect master of the Wind Valley sect was about to reach the conference hall, the War King roared in exasperation. "I've said it before, these soldiers are soldiers who guard the Northern Wave continent, they are not assassins. Moreover, you are just a young lass. Do you think it is worth it for me to send my men to hunt you down? If you continue to pester me, don't blame me for bringing this matter to the royal family, to the Qingyue sect. Let's see how you can continue to survive in the northern continent. Oh, Yi Qing Luo dragged out the last syllable and nodded with a smile. Then do it. If I can't survive in the northern continent, consider it my loss. You. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's stubborn look, Battle King was so angry that his teeth itched. He was a dignified General Battle King. How could he make a fuss over such a small matter? This slut didn't want face. He still wanted face. What's more, this slut dared to be so arrogant, insisting that he was the one who sent those soldiers to hunt her down. Who knew if she had any evidence in her hands? If it went to the royal family? If it went to the Qinghua sect? It was a small matter to lose face. If the news that he had sent his trusted men to hunt down a 15-year-old girl was spread out, he would really have no face to continue living in the northern continent. At this moment, a gentle voice suddenly came from behind. General Battle King, did I disturb you by visiting so suddenly? Hearing this voice, Battle King's body stiffened. Little by little, his face, which had been distorted by rage, returned to normal. He turned his head and saw a gentle and elegant man in a bamboo-colored robe greeting him politely. The War King immediately grinned and quickly walked over. The Wind Valley sect's young sect master's arrival brings light to our humble dwelling. How could it possibly disturb me? Come, this way please. I've already ordered the servants to brew the best tea in the hall. As he spoke, he held the man's arm and walked in another direction. However, Gu Jingyu moved slightly and shook off Warlord's hand. He looked in the direction of the conference hall and said, "Doesn't General Warlord have a guest? You don't have to go to the lobby. Let's just stay here. You can also meet new friends along the way." As Gu Jingyu spoke, he had already walked into the conference hall. His gaze immediately fell onto Yi Qing Luo. A pair of eyes so gentle that it seemed as if water could be squeezed out of them. At this moment they glowed faintly. When Yi Qing Luo saw Gu Jingyu, her slender brows creased slightly. He is the young sect master of the Wind Valley sect. His every move represents the Wind Valley sect. He came to the Battle King's residence. Didn't that represent that the Wind Valley sect took the initiative to interact with the Battle King's residence? Didn't Gu Jingyu think of this? No. Wrong. Gu Jingyu was so smart, how could he not think of this? Could it be? Gu Jingyu had heard that she was invited to the Battle King's residence by the general of the Battle King's residence. So he specially came over? Chapter 2447. Young Matriarch Gu. Battle King immediately followed up. When his gaze swept towards Yi Qing Luo, there was an obvious warning. As though he was threatening her not to spoil his relationship with Gu Jingyu. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she leaned lazily against the chair without any intention to stand up to greet Gu Jingyu. She was that lazy as she looked at Battle King with a faint smile. It made Battle King's scalp go numb. Under Gu Jingyu's coercion, Battle King could only suppress his fear and disgust towards Yi Qing Luo as he spoke out. "Young Matriarch Gu, these ladies are unpresentable, it's better to follow me to the main hall. If young Matriarch Gu likes them, I will arrange a more beautiful lady for young Matriarch Gu." Shut up. Gu Jingyu's face sunk as he frowned. What kind of person does Battle King think I am? Gu Jingyu looked at Yi Qing Luo in panic. As though he was blaming Battle King for describing him as a silk pants in front of the lady he admired? Battle King felt embarrassed when he was berated. He laughed awkwardly as his heart was filled with disdain. Young Matriarch Gu stopped moving when he saw those young and beautiful ladies, especially when he looked at that slut's gaze. It was a blatant covetous look. Wasn't he just a silk pants who liked beauties? But he still pretended to be serious. But Battle King was just complaining in his heart. On the surface, he still had to put on a guilty expression. Yes, I was wrong. How could those ordinary ladies be worthy of such a young and promising man like young Matriarch Gu? Gu Jingyu's brows knitted even tighter. This General Battle King, must he think of him as a silk pants who was addicted to beauties? Could it be that he really looked like that kind of Casanova? Was this the reason why Yi Luo rejected him? Thinking of Yi Luo mentioning that he had a fiancée, Gu Jingyu's heart became extremely bitter. His thin lips pursed slightly as he didn't make any other explanation for his image. But he pretended to look at Yi Qing Luo and the other two in doubt and asked doubtfully, "General Battle King, these three ladies don't look like they are from the Battle King's residence, and these..." He looked at the bloody corpses on the ground and frowned. "It's not good to let the girl see this. Young Master Gu is right." The manservant behind Zhan Wang gave him a look. The servant immediately trotted out. Soon, he brought a few strong bodyguards with him. A few guards were about to carry the corpses out. Yi Qing Luo, who hadn't spoken for a long time, raised her eyes and spoke out lazily, "Stop." His clear voice was as cold as ice, cold to the bone. Those guards actually didn't dare to move for a moment. The War King's face darkened. "Take him away." The guards immediately broke out in cold sweat. The pressure from Yi Qing Luo. The pressure from the War Monarch. The guard felt his heart clench. "Who exactly is your master?" I said, "Take him away." The War King's expression immediately became even more gloomy. In front of young sect Master Gu, even his subordinates did not give him any face. Where was the dignity of the Battle King? That guard realized that he was in the wrong and hurriedly knelt down on the ground. "Your subordinate will carry them away now." Saying that, one by one hurriedly bent down to carry those corpses. Chapter 2448. Yi Luo, you shut up for this, General. Battle King's expression turned gloomy as he bellowed furiously to stop Yi Qing Luo from speaking. Immediately he turned towards Gu Jingyu's direction and said, "Young sect Master Gu, this is a misunderstanding. Don't look at this young lady, she looks so weak but her heart is very vicious." As he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, he tried his best to explain, "This lady poisoned my son, causing him to lose his right to be a father. She has also ended the bloodline of the Yuan clan." "What?" "She poisoned my son, causing him to lose the right to be a father. Later she poisoned the eldest young miss of the Miao Gu family. And now she killed my brothers who had gone through life and death with me. And even hung my brothers' corpses at the main entrance of Battle King's residence." Humiliating Battle King's residence. The more he spoke, the more indignant Battle King's tone became. But because of Gu Jingyu's presence, he suppressed the anger in his chest. He shut his eyes fiercely as he put on a sorrowful expression. "She killed my brothers and tried in vain to make a fuss, insisting that it was me, and sent my men to pursue her." Gu Jingyu listened quietly and immediately raised his gentle eyes, as he gave Yi Qing Luo a meaningful look. Yesterday when Yi Qing Luo was being pursued, he was about to head over to the Bu family village to take in everything. He naturally had a decision in his heart. But what made Gu Jingyu shocked and astonished was, Yi Luo actually hung those soldiers' corpses directly at the main entrance of Battle King's residence. This obviously meant that he had specially investigated Battle King's residence. He knew that Battle King's residence had always been confident and wouldn't send anyone to guard at night. So he intentionally did such a thing. Once the night watchman discovered the corpses at the main entrance of Battle King's residence, basically, the entire Qinghua city would know about it. Then he heard Battle King saying that Yi Luo had poisoned the Yuan family's bloodline. Gu Jingyu couldn't help but pondered in his heart. Miss Yi. What enmity did she have with Battle King's residence? Young sect Master Gu, it's rare for you to visit me personally at Battle King's residence. Don't let this vicious woman affect your mood. Battle King saw that Gu Jingyu wasn't acting like what he had imagined, standing on his side with righteous indignation, accusing Yi Qing Luo's viciousness, so he immediately changed the topic. Gu Jingyu's eyes flickered and his smile became even gentler. "General War King, this Lady Yi is so beautiful. She doesn't look like a vicious woman. There must be some misunderstanding." The War Monarch's pupils contracted. Just because she was beautiful, she didn't seem like a bad person? This young sect master Gu was an idiot who only knew how to look at appearances? Without waiting for War King to reply, Gu Jingyu had already put on an impartial and strict expression as he walked to the main seat in the hall and sat down. Coincidentally, I encountered this matter today. Let me resolve the misunderstanding for you too. This action could be said to be arrogant. The war monarch was stunned. Why was this South Billow Continent's young sect master completely different from the one in the investigation? What happened to the gentle young master? What happened to being refined and courteous? How did he end up here? As the host, he hadn't even taken his seat yet. He hadn't even had the chance to exchange pleasantries. Young sect master Gu went to the main seat alone? He totally didn't put him, the war monarch, in his eyes. But Battle King couldn't say this layer of meaning out loud. After all, young sect master Gu's actions were inappropriate, but his words and attitude were very gentle and courteous. Chapter 2449. Thinking of this, even if Battle King was unhappy, he had to suppress it. He couldn't create friction with the young matriarch of the southern continent just because of the main seat. Miss Yi, can you tell me, why are you so sure that General Battle King would hunt you down? Gu Jingyu sat firmly on the main seat, his thin lips raised slightly as he asked Yiqing Luo with a gentle smile. Yiqing Luo raised her brows, her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly. Gu Jingyu deliberately pretended not to know her. Was he trying to help her? But this was indeed a good idea. Battle King wanted to befriend Gu Jingyu. In front of Gu Jingyu, Battle King had to restrain his arrogance. When Battle King heard Gu Jingyu's question, he quickly walked to the lower seat next to Gu Jingyu and sat down while replying, "What young matriarch Gu said is right. I am the Northern Continent's General Battle King. If I want a little lass from another continent with no background to die, it's just a matter of moving my fingers. Why would I send my own brothers to hunt her down? If General Battle King didn't send these soldiers to hunt little Luo, how can you be so sure that these soldiers were killed by little Luo?" The cold, elegant lady who had been silent, coldly opened her mouth. Jun Qing Wu narrowed her cold eyes, her voice was bone-chilling. "Our little Luo has no enmity with the Battle King's mansion. Little Luo's brain must have been kicked by a donkey. Why would she be so silly to kill your soldiers?" You. Battle King didn't know how to refute Jun Qing Wu's questioning. His eyes looked around in panic and finally looked at Gu Jingyu, as if hoping that Gu Jingyu could speak up for him. Kitty Lee cupped her chin with both hands, blinking her big watery eyes. "Sister Wu is right. If you didn't send people to kill Sister, how would Sister possibly kill those soldiers? You said you have no motive to hunt Sister down. Does Sister have the motive to kill those soldiers?" As she said this, Kitty Lee pouted and snorted heavily. "Even though we are little girls who are ignorant of the ways of the world, we are not fools. We three sisters came to the Northern Wave Continent, and we have no relatives or friends. And now it's the sect master's birthday celebration? We'd have to be crazy to cause trouble for your warlord's mansion." When Gu Jingyu heard this, he carefully pondered for a while. Then, he rubbed his chin and turned his head to look at Warlord seriously. "That makes sense." That gaze seemed to be saying, "It's your turn." A gloomy look flashed across the War King's eyes. Just as he was about to speak, however, he heard a sweet voice say, "Kitty, you're wrong. General Warlord naturally has a motive to hunt me down." Yiqing Luo's lips curled up into a lazy smile, her long and narrow eyes calmly met Battle King's gaze. The war monarch gritted his teeth in anger. "You're talking nonsense. General Battle King, didn't you say that I poisoned the young master and caused your Yuan family to have no descendants? Just because of this, you have enough motivation to hunt me down." Yiqing Luo said smilingly, as though the person who was being pursued wasn't her at all. Battle King's face instantly turned pale. Gu Jingyu's eyes widened slightly, as though he believed in Yiqing Luo's words. The gaze which he shot towards Battle King was added with a sliver of sharpness. "General Battle King, what these three young ladies said is very reasonable. If General Battle King is unable to refute or prove that you have no intention to pursue after that Miss Yi, then I can only choose to believe these three young ladies. Chapter 2450. Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. She leaned lazily on the tea table and smiled leisurely. Unfortunately, General Battle King can't prove that you don't want to avenge Little Duke, but I happen to have evidence to prove that it is you, General Battle King, who sent your trusted aide to hunt me down. When she said the last sentence, Yiqing Luo suddenly sat up straight, a pair of lazy and hazy eyes. At this moment, it shot out a piercingly cold ray. Her 5 fingers moved. A token was thrown to the feet of Battle King. That token was made of metal. It fell on the ground and made an extremely crisp sound. On the token, there was an extremely obvious battle word, reflected in everyone's eyes. Battle King was shocked and immediately bent over to pick up the token. A single hand was even faster than him. Gu Jingyu held the token in his hand. His fingertips gently stroked the word battle. He looked at the War King and his thin lips curled into a cold sneer. General War King, how do you explain this? Why is this token that belongs to you, the General War King, and is used to dispatch soldiers, in Miss Ye's hands? Obviously, Gu Jingyu was completely on Yiqing Luo's side. Moreover, Gu Jingyu was also extremely disdainful of his thick skin that refused to admit. Battle King was clear. He wanted to make friends with Gu Fengsek's young matriarch. It was already impossible. Battle King's face was pale, his whole body was tense and stiff. He stared unblinkingly at the token in Gu Jingyu's hand. His breathing became heavy bit by bit. After a long while, his face was gloomy, his whole body was filled with a daunting cold air. Just as he was about to break the pot and admit this matter, outside the door there was suddenly a heavy sound of footsteps, accompanied by a young man's sloppy voice. "It is this Duke who sent these soldiers to hunt you down. What's the matter? Do you have any opinion?" Shortly after, at the entrance of the hall, a rotund young man walked in, surrounded by numerous servants and maids. The moment Yuan Kuang walked into the meeting hall, a pair of narrow eyes fixed on Yiqing Luo fiercely. His eyes were filled with strong murderous intent. It was like a raging storm, surging wave after wave. Kuang. When the War King saw his son, he quickly walked over and said, "What are you doing here? The B*TCH who ruined our Yuan family is here. How could I not come?" Yuan Kuang's tone was evil, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. The War King knitted his brows tightly. Yuan Kuang rubbed his round tummy and turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo as he gave a sinister smile. "Little beauty, this Duke will bear the consequences of my own actions." This Duke had stolen Father's token and falsely passed on Father's orders to make those soldiers chase after you. All these were planned by this Duke. This prince wants your life. At this moment, Yuan Kuang was looking at Yiqing Luo's exquisite face, and that arrogant temperament that once made his heart itch unbearably. Now, it had all turned into deep hatred. He hated this slut for making him lose the right to be a father. He was the only descendant of the Yuan family, the only son of the Battle King. But because of this slut destroyed everything he had. Not to mention that he was the only son of the Battle King. In future, he would be able to inherit the Battle King's position. If the news of him not having the ability to conceive a descendant was spread to the collateral relatives of the Yuan family, all the glory they had now would be destroyed. Everything in the Battle King's residence would be destroyed.